counted every single time he pulled the trigger. In my head, okay, 3 bullets, 4 bullets, 5 bullets. And then he went to pull the gun, and that's when I got shot in the face.
It's heartbreaking to see a family like this destroyed by someone who, for whatever reason, decided they would take a gun and shoot a couple of little kids and the mom. I have to add that this is infuriating.
No words can describe the horrific attack Mariah Gardner sustained, allegedly at the hands of her ex-husband. What was worse, that her children were also attacked, and the man accused is their father. For the past year, Gardner has opened up in a way no one who has been through what she has been through has before. She has taken control of her story, a story that started a little over a year ago. We want to warn you, the details will be hard to hear, and the topic of domestic violence could be a trigger for some. At 28 years old, Mariah Gardner was starting a new normal. In 2023, she was newly divorced and raising 4 kids, age 11, 8, 2, and an 11-month-old baby. Mariah and the kids live with her father on Robin Hood Place in North San Antonio near Alamo Heights. Gardner and 50-year-old Stephen Clare had a rocky relationship. According to court filings, Clare and Mariah were married in June 2021, just months before Clare had filed a court-ordered paternity test to determine if he was the father of their first daughter, Rosalie. The two then separated in January of 2022. By February, Mariah filed for divorce, citing discord in the marriage and a conflict of personalities. At that time, Mariah was pregnant with their second child. Baby Willow was born in April 2022. Despite Clare being there for the birth of his child, their divorce was finalized in December of that year. According to KSAT Investigates, no record of any protective orders had ever been filed by Gardner, but San Antonio police calls for service showed officers were called to the home on Robin Hood Place in October 2022 after a woman said a man was harassing her, but the man had taken off before officers arrived. Because nothing came of the call, the names of those involved could not be released. During this time, Clare was working as a contract nurse practitioner at the emergency clinic of Alamo Heights. In April 2023, Mariah was still in contact with Stephen, hoping to keep a cordial relationship so they could continue to co-parent. But according to Mariah, things with Clare were getting difficult. On April 10th, 2023, everything changed.
My ex-husband came over, and he would randomly just stop by, so I didn't think much of it. I let him in the house, and he said hi to the girls, and I continued to kind of get everybody ready for bed.
Mariah says the next thing she knew, a gun was pointed at her from a hospital bed. Mariah told us what happened that day.
He told me he was going to kill me and every single one of my children. And I started fighting him, trying to get the gun away from him, because at that point I had realized, okay, this is not a joke. He was punching me. He was kicking me. He told me to go get my oldest son, that he wanted to kill him first. And I stalled, and I said, I don't know where he is. I even told him at one point, he's not home. And he made me go from room to room looking for my kids. He kicked in 2 doors, a closet, moved my entire bed out of the way to check for my children to see if they were hiding. And I finally, I fought him as much as I could.
Mariah says she tried running out for help and screaming to neighbors to call police, but the attack didn't stop.
I saw him walk in the house. I continued to fight him, and he continued punching me and hitting me with a gun, and that's when I got shot in the abdomen. I grabbed the gun. I was trying to get it from him. We fought some more in the living room. And I was so tired. I couldn't fight anymore. I'd been shot twice, and I'd been beaten up. And so he got me down on my knees, and I just held the barrel of the gun. And I pointed it toward my hips because I knew that he'd have less of a chance hitting a major organ if he shot me in the pelvis. And I counted every single time he pulled the trigger in my head. Okay, 3 bullets, 4 bullets, 5 bullets. And then he went to pull the gun, and that's when I got shot in the face. And at that point, I was bleeding so heavily. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I was just coughing, and blood was just coming out of my mouth.
Mariah says she then crawled outside and collapsed on the sidewalk, hoping and praying that her children would be okay.
I really thought she was going to die in my arms.
SAPD officer Veronica Butler was the first on the scene. Here's how she describes what she saw as she arrived.
She was on the sidewalk. She was laying down almost in a pool of blood, which I realized that was hers. Initially, when I approached her, she said, "I'm dying." She had blood coming out of her. I couldn't even figure out which part of her head or body at that time. I applied pressure to help her, and I spoke to her to keep her breathing, just to let her know that she's not alone and that somebody is here with her. She told me that he said he was going to kill her and the kids.
Mariah says that during the attack, Claire walked back into the home where his 2 young daughters were inside.
This is the part that gets hard. He went further into the house. And he laid my 2 girls down on the floor next to each other and took out a pocket knife.
Both girls were stabbed multiple times. Claire then just left the home. Mariah says her 2 sons were able to escape from a window and were not physically harmed. Mariah and the girls suffered extensive injuries. It was too much for 11-month-old Willow. She didn't survive, dying 2 days shy of her first birthday.
They tried to do everything they could for Willow, but by the time they got her to the hospital, her blood alkaline level was just already, she was beyond repair. There was nothing that they could do for her. Fortunately, Rosalie, my other daughter, they were in the same operating room. And so at least she wasn't alone. She was with her sister. And I knew something. I don't know if it's a mother's instinct or what. And Willow she came to me, and I immediately knew that she was gone.
The days after the attack, Mariah and Rosalie went through surgeries and recovery. They spent weeks in the hospital. The road to recovery was not over. After Claire was arrested, bond was set at $2 million. However, a month later, 437th District Court Judge Joel Perez revoked Claire's bond, meaning he will sit in the Bexar County Jail until he goes to trial.
Right.
6 months after the vicious attack on Mariah and her children, Mariah held a walk in Willow's honor.
I don't ever want another mother to have to walk down a street because her child was murdered by their father.
Those in attendance walked alongside the family, reenacting the route taken by their attacker. Then a candlelight vigil and a moment of silence.
I would tell her how much I love her and how proud I am of her. She is saving people every single day, and she doesn't even know it.
Mariah has been turning her pain and loss of her daughter into purpose by spreading awareness about domestic violence. Mariah said she called police several times against Claire in the months leading up to the attack, but she claims nothing was really done. In February this year, the district attorney announced in a hearing that they would be pursuing the death penalty against Claire.
Your Honor, the state of Texas is seeking the death penalty against the defendant.
The first time the death penalty applied to a case since 2021. While Mariah says there is no punishment enough for Claire, she was glad it was being applied.
It was important for me to know that he would be punished to the greatest extent of what the law allows. And I was very vocal with the DA's office in terms of what I wanted. This is something that my children and I have been forced to live with every single day. I will live with this trauma every single day for the rest of my life. And I will do whatever it takes to make sure that he is held accountable.
Jury selection for Claire's trial is tentatively set for October 11th. Jury selection for a death penalty case takes several weeks to complete. Once completed, a trial date will be set. A year has passed since the attack, and while Mariah is trying to be strong for her kids, it is still a struggle. When we spoke to her in February, she talked about how she has been doing.
We are probably better than expected, but not as good as we'd like to be. I know me personally, I struggle very much with PTSD, which has actually gotten worse with time instead of getting better. In the beginning, I think my nervous system was just so disoriented that I was still very much in survival mode. So now that the dust has kind of settled, everything's kind of creeping in. Like now I'm realizing different triggers, and it's been an interesting path to have to navigate and also take care of my children, which is difficult even without PTSD, without having to survive something like what I did. My boys, they're doing well. They've completed their the trauma portion of their therapy, which is good news. They are they're doing better in terms of symptoms from their trauma. So as their mom, I'm just so thankful for that. I'm thankful for their therapists being so great. And Rosalie, it's still a process. She struggles emotionally. She gets scared. To be expected, obviously. It's going to be a long process for her. And we don't know how it'll manifest in adulthood. She's so resilient, and she's just, being a toddler is so wonderful because you can go through something so horrible and still laugh and play and love and trust. So she has a wonderful support system, and she's so loved.
As she now prepares for a future trial, Mariah is also sharing her story to highlight the problems with domestic violence and has become an advocate in the cause and hopes her story sends a message.
This can't happen to people.
This tells perpetrators or potential perpetrators, we are not going to tolerate this anymore. Domestic violence has to stop. Child abuse has to stop because you will be held accountable. If you want to hurt your family, this is what is going to happen. This is the result.
As for Willow's memory, she holds her daughter close to her heart daily and gathers strength from her surviving children to just take it one day at a time.
She was just starting, and we will never, now every birthday, every Christmas, every anniversary, our survival day, she'll never be a part of it, except in our memory. She's literally a collection of memories. And I wish I knew how I was going to get through that, but I'm kind of just going with the flow. I'm giving myself the space to grieve, and I just want to be there with my kids and just hug them because we did survive. And I think if we can find a way to honor Willow while we also celebrate our survival, I think that'll be the key to getting through it, and just lots and lots of prayers.
If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, KSAT.com's domestic violence page has a long list of resources. If you are in crisis, you can call or text 911 or the domestic violence hotline at 800-799-7233. Thanks for joining us. Texas Crime Stories will be back soon with an all-new episode.